Hey everybody, it's Professor Malott. Welcome to week 6. This is the week 6 overview. So we have been working on rhetorical analysis. You've chosen an ad, you've written your rough draft, and this week we are all about peer review. So one thing that I've heard time and time again, that peer review is something that students really resist, that they don't like to do it. They often feel very awkward sharing their writing with somebody other than the professor. But after a student goes through peer review, usually their attitude changes a little bit. It's not so much of a pulling teeth exercise. Um, Peer review has a lot of benefits. Not only do you have the opportunity to share your writing with somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about writing, but you also will get feedback from, well, let's face it, let's call you guys the average quote unquote Joe, right? The average person. Um, so if your writing makes sense to even the average person, the person who isn't an expert in their field or an expert in writing and composition, you know that you're on the right track, right? So it's good to get feedback, to have somebody who's not an expert read it, make sure that what you've written makes sense, and provide some suggestions if for some reason there is a part of your essay that does not make sense. So I don't want you to panic over this. It's not something that is like a super serious uh, assignment that you need to, you have to be an expert and know about grammar and spelling and all that stuff. You just need to know how to read. And if you can read something and it more or less makes sense, that it flows well, then you know that this writer is on the right track. If it doesn't make sense to you, if there's something that, just seems off, but you don't know what it is, you can let the person know that you're not quite sure what the problem is, but it didn't quite make sense to you as a reader. Keep in mind, I am also reading the rough drafts. I'm also providing feedback. So it's not like this is the only feedback that you receive, the feedback from your peers. You are also receiving feedback and guidance from me as well. But it's good to get an extra set of eyes, or two sets of eyes, or three sets of eyes. So peer review, I find it to be a very important, but also a very valuable experience for students who are learning how to write academic essays. So I want to say a few things about some of the assignments, especially the peer review assignment. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about that just so you understand what is expected of you in that assignment. So as I said before, this week the objectives are to assess peer writing and recommend revisions, implement those revision suggestions that you receive from your peers and from me as your instructor. You will also develop strategies for reviewing, collaborating, revising, and editing. And then the last thing here is you will experience the social aspects of the writing process. A lot of us think that writing is something that we do on our own and that other people aren't involved. But when you are in a community, in a classroom such as this, even though it's an online classroom and we don't see each other face to face, you've been evaluating and discussing and providing suggestions to one another in the discussion boards. And this peer review exercise is yet another aspect of how we are social in this community of writers. So I don't want to underplay that. I think the social aspect is a very important thing when it comes to writing. It's very good to have people to turn to and ask their opinions and bounce ideas off of one another. We don't write in a vacuum. We never write in a vacuum. So there are a few things that I want you to watch. There are short videos dealing primarily with how to do peer review. How to be a great peer editor is the first one that has 7 peer review tips. That's a 3-minute video. Then there is one on how to write effective peer review comments 5 minutes roughly. And then the last one is the Canvas tutorial for peer review. And it will walk you through how you can use the different features in Canvas to mark up your peer's document. So the assignments for this week all due on Sunday, the 18th. You have another grammar quiz. We're dealing with run-on sentences and sentence fragments. So we're still using, learning how to use commas and semicolons. And then there's a discussion board. The discussion board number 5 here is just a midterm check-in. We don't meet face to face, so I need to know how the course is working for you as a student. I want you to answer the questions honestly. If necessary, I'll make adjustments to the course based on the learning needs of the class as a whole. So I'm asking you to tell me what's helping you to learn in this course. What are the things that are limiting or hindering your learning in the course? Are there too many assignments? Are the assignments really difficult? I want you to honestly provide feedback so I can know and make adjustments, not only for this course, but in future courses that I teach. What can I do differently to help improve your learning? Fewer assignments, more assignments, different assignments, more flexibility, whatever it is. And what can you do differently to improve your learning? I'm willing to make adjustments, and I hope that you as students are also willing to make adjustments. So 20 points for that honest feedback. I really do appreciate the comments and suggestions that you can provide for me. The other assignment, we have journal number 5, talking about peer review reflections. I will open that up for you as well. I'm asking you to write about your past peer review experiences, positive and or negative. If you've done peer review in the past, fantastic, right? What has it been like? Maybe there are some of you who have never done peer review, or you can't remember if you did it when you were in high school, and that's fine. You can answer the next question. What are your expectations when your classmate reads your paper? Is it something that you're nervous about? Are you excited about it? Are you not sure? I want to know. What type of feedback do you want to get from your peers? What might be helpful? So again, another honest reflection that you reflect upon your past experiences, if you've had them, or think about what might be coming in this whole peer review exercise. Peer review, peer review, peer review. That takes us down to the last assignment, which is the peer review for essay number 2. So you have written a rough draft, you've submitted it to me, and you have probably receive some feedback before you get your peer review feedback. So the peer review, it will automatically be assigned through Canvas, and you'll be asked to provide some quality feedback to your peers that will help them to improve their writing skills. So I have some instructions. I want you to note that if your peer reviewer fails to review your draft, you are still responsible for submitting the final draft of the essay by the due date. If they didn't do their part, that's not going to reflect negatively on you. If you do your work, you're going to be just fine. But please don't wait until your peer reviewer reviews your draft if you need to get the draft in on time or as close to the due date as possible, right? Don't let somebody else hinder you from completing the work that you need to complete. So one thing I want you to be reassured of is I'm not asking you to look for spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes, punctuation errors, formatting errors, none of that stuff. I'm really looking for you to give more global suggestions for revision. And if you're comfortable with some local editing assistance, that's fine too. So I want you to mark on other students' papers, offer as much advice as possible, and if you remember we didn't do an annotation exercise, so I actually need to remove that from the instructions. But you can highlight, underline, circle, and make notes in the margins. The tutorial video from Canvas explains how to do all of that. And remember that classmates don't have to take your advice, but they do not have the option if you don't offer advice. So make sure that you watch this peer review tutorial. That way you'll be familiar with the various features that are available in the Canvas doc view to mark up and provide feedback to your classmates. You can use highlighting, drawing, comments, and within the document, you could also fill out the accompanying rubric, and or you can type comments in the general comments or feedback area of the assignment. So below, I have a checklist that I'd like you to go to. I have asked you to copy and paste those questions into a fresh document and answer the questions to the best of your ability. You don't have to answer all of them, just try your very best. Make sure that you then save that document by a recognizable file name and then submit it to this assignment here on Canvas. You will also need to attach that document to your peer-reviewed feedback in the comments area. The linked video above will, again, of course, explain how to use all of these features. If for some reason you are having trouble or you're just not sure how to do it, you can always reach out to me and ask me how to do things, and I will try my very best to help you. I don't want you to panic. I don't want you to get so super frustrated and upset over this. It's just peer review. It's not a huge deal. So, as I said before, try to keep from focusing on editing and proofreading issues. I want you to think more about things that are more important to the assignment. So, does it meet specific guidelines of the prompt? Did the student write a rhetorical analysis, or did they just write some random essay? If they haven't, where did it go off track, right? If the prompt indicates that the essay should be directed at a specific audience, did the writer address that audience? I don't think this does. It might just say, you are writing to your instructor and your classmates, or it might say general audience. I'm not sure, but you'll have to look at the assignment to see what directions I have left for you there. So we come down to thesis. If you can locate the thesis, I want you to try to highlight it within the document. Use that highlighting feature if there is a thesis statement. Sometimes the thesis statement can be buried in the middle of the paper. Sometimes there's not a thesis statement. Not a big deal. You can just jot down a note that there is no thesis or you couldn't find it. If you find the thesis statement, is it specific, arguable, appropriate to the prompt? Does it relate to rhetorical analysis, right? As far as organization, I'd like you to look at the organization of the essay. What are the main points of each body paragraph? There should be some clearly definable topic sentences. Remember, with paragraphs, you want to focus one idea per paragraph, not lump a bunch of different ideas into a single paragraph. Look to see if their paragraphs are arranged in the most logical and effective order. If not, do you have suggestions on how the paragraphs might be reordered so it makes more sense? Is the material within the paragraphs arranged logically and effectively? You don't need to focus too much on that, but if there's something there that stands out to you and you want to make suggestions, go for it. If not, what suggestions do you have for adding, deleting, or repositioning individual sentences? And lastly, I want you to look at the introduction and conclusion. Are they interesting? Are they thoughtful? Does the introduction grab your interest? Does the conclusion kind of summarize what has been written in the essay? If not, what could the writer do to make the introduction and conclusion more compelling? We also want to look for evidence. Are the body paragraphs supported by concrete, specific, and convincing evidence? So for evidence here, we're talking directly about examples from the advertisement that you've chosen. Are there examples from the advertisement? Does the writer give enough detail so that you know the advertisement that they're talking about, right? Or could imagine it, right? If not, what evidence is needed and where? And then, of course, we also want to look at overall interest and clarity. Where do you find yourself the most interested? What is the most interesting part of the essay? Where do you find yourself the most bored or distracted? Does the writer fail to engage your interest through the whole essay? Where do you find yourself the most confused? And what one question about the topic would you still like the writer to answer? And as I said before, you don't have to answer all of these questions, just do the best that you can. So once again, please make sure you watch the Canvas peer review tutorial. It'll make a lot more sense when you understand how to use the features within Canvas to help you complete the peer review. That is that for the assignments for this week in week number 6. Hard to believe that we're already in week number 6. So make sure that you think about the things that can be improved in this course. Think about peer review, and then if you have any trouble with the peer review assignment, or if you have any questions for me, you know how to get in touch with me. If you need to, you can also set up a Zoom meeting with me. I am available. I just need to give you my times ahead of time, I guess. I'll try to do that on a weekly basis. I know I did it last week, or a couple of weeks ago. As I said, it's a busy season for me with my son playing travel baseball. He's also involved for the month of June, involved in some basketball things at school. So he's got me coming and going at different times. I wish my schedule was a little bit, or his schedule was a little bit more predictable. Sometimes it is, but it usually isn't, sadly. All right. Good luck with this. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.